Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope everyone is well. Good morning in particular to those that have said good morning to everyone, to Eitan, to Peter, to Rachel, to Mervyn, to Michael, to David, to Richard, and everyone else who are joining us. Good morning to each and every one of you. So special, so wonderful to have so many people. Despite Tier 4, we are still allowed to meet online. Who knows? There could be a Tier 5, Tier 6 where I'm not allowed to give this talk anymore. Anyways, so we are dedicating our learning today, firstly for the Yortzites in memory of Bela Bas Michal Morris, David Ben Binyamin Radomski, and Naftali Tzvi Ben Shmuel Aryeh Jampel, as well as Leah Bas Feivel, Harav Yaakov Tzvi Ben David Aryeh, Tzivia Bas Mordechai, Avram Ben David Slavin, Shlomo Ben Yisrael Morris, Sipara Fegler was Reuven Bol, Shalom Ben Eli Ben Bas Feivel for Moshe Shana Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Caleb Bela Bas Henoch Yirmiyahu Yechiva, Chio Ben Moshe Eliezer, and Sarah Malka Bas Binyamin, wish each and every one of their respective families long life and only simchas. We started yesterday learning about the curriculum created by the genius of Rabbi Lord Sacks. The 10 paths to God, it is called, and each path asks many questions our beliefs and our faith, and takes us on a great odyssey and journey to discover what it means to be a Jew, and many of the things that we do by rote, by habit, the chesed, kindness, prayer, so on and so forth, study of Torah. It asks questions of us, which enables us to go through a process of introspection and hopefully come out with a deeper, more grounded faith and understanding and appreciation of what it means to be Jewish. We were in the very first path yesterday. Good morning, Estelle, you found us. Yes, well, I'm in the same, if you have a look on the screen, I'm in exactly the same place. I don't think I've moved in 12 months. I'm sitting in exactly the same place. So it won't be too difficult to find me, Estelle, even when you move. Right. So we were discussing about the first path, which is Jewish identity. Many people, if you ask them, who they are, they'll say they're a lawyer, they're a doctor, they're an accountant, or today they're a coder, they're a personal trainer. What else are people today? They're builders, they're property developers, whatever it may be. But you ask them a bit more, you probe a bit deeper, and you'll hear, yeah, I'm Jewish and I'm very proud of being Jewish. And then you say to the person, or say to your kids or grandchildren, well, what does it mean to be proud of being Jewish? What does that mean? And then they'll tell you, well, we've won so many Nobel Prizes and a contribution that the Jewish people have made to the world. So therefore, I'm proud of what Jewish people have offered the world at large. Now, there is no denying that that is true. No denying it. But the question is that all that it means to be a Jew? Or perhaps could we suggest and could we understand that there is something far more profound, far more significant, far more overarching in what it means to be a Jew in our generation? So let's have a look at some sources. We studied one of the sources from Rabbi Sacks himself, his words, and it seems so strange to be studying Rabbi Sacks' works as something in the past, as a person who's no longer with us. Every time I walk past in Bushy, where he is buried in the new cemetery, it's difficult. I have to pinch myself to believe it. It's still such a shock because he was so much a part of our lives. So we will now look at some more classic sources regarding the way the Jewish people are described. If you were to ask our non-Jewish neighbors and friends, how many Jews are in the world? Try this. Of course, keep your 2 meters and wear a mask, but ask them over the fence, how many Jews are there in this country? How many Jews are there in the world? I remember the first time I met Imam Qureshi from Finchley, the Finchley Mosque. And I remember us having conversations about numbers. And the first thing that anyone who's not Jewish is just astounded and cannot get their heads around is the numbers. In other words, the fact that we are so little, so few. Most people believe that there are 5 million Jews in the world. There must be 50 to 100 million Jews, 5 million in this country, in the United Kingdom. They believe there's 50 million or 100 million in the world at large. And every country, the Jews are controlling and have wield tremendous power in the Senate, in Congress, in Parliament. Basically, we've stitched everything up. Well, if ever there was something that's not true, it's there. You only have to look at what happened in the European Parliament last week. I think it was last week or the week before, where Shechita, ritual slaughter, was debated, and we lost, be it halal or be it kosher. So if we are wielding all this power, then ritual slaughter, Shechita, would not be outlawed, would not be seen as inhumane. We would be controlling things, ensuring that life is easy for the Jewish people, not that you can live in the middle of Europe and have to import meat. So let's have a look about the way we are described, the blessings that the Almighty has bestowed on the Jewish people. So we find that at the time of Abraham and Sarah, God said, I will multiply your seed like the stars of the heaven and the sand on the seashore. So that sounds like we are going to be, there's a lot of sand on the seashore. Again, I'm not recommending that you leave your abode and go to the seashore and go to the sand to check it. But believe you me, there is a lot of sand on the beach, okay? Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai explained, this people is compared to the dust and to the stars, okay? Two very different comparisons. One is the sand on the seashore. The second is Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai, who states, and this is actually found in the verses, that we are described as the dust and the stars. When it sinks to the dust, but when it rises to the stars. We'll come back to that source in a minute. Harry, good morning. You could not log in. I am so sorry that you've been struggling to log in, but we hope that it gets easier. Just put me as one of your favorites, Harry, and then you'll get in. Anyways, we move on. The next source is from Bereshit Rabbah, and it says as follows: I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth. As the dust of the earth is from one end of the world to the other, so your children will be dispersed from one end of the world to the other. As dust is trodden on by all, so will your children be trodden on by the peoples of the world. Well, that certainly happened. As dust outlives all vessels of metal while it endures forever, so all the peoples of the earth will cease to be, while Israel endures forever. Again, Mark Twain. All the other nations, the great empires, the Greeks, the Romans, the Babylonians, they've all fallen by the wayside, disappeared, a mere relic of the past. You'll find them in the museums. You'll find their artifacts, in the history books, confined to history. And yet the Jewish people are the greatest miracle, perhaps, in that the fact that we have survived, the fact nobody has been able to overcome us. Eventually, we have always, like the sand on the seashore, that it looks like it's washed away, and this is one of the comparisons, and yet when the sea moves away, then you see the sand is still there. So what do you think, everyone? Is it a blessing? This is a question from Rabbi Sachs, not me. Is it a blessing or a curse to be compared to the dust of the earth? Answers on the buzzers, or you can write it in the comment or the chat. That's question number one. What do you think? Are you happy that the Jewish people are compared to the dust of the earth? I don't think there's anything more lowly than the dust of the earth. Many nations have taken this literally and said, well, I'll treat you like the dust of the earth, Jewish people. And that's exactly what they've done. So what is this comparison? Is it a blessing or a curse? Blessing, Powell, you say. Well, you have to explain a bit more. Why should it be a blessing to be the dust of the earth, which is trodden on by everyone? Number two, dispersed throughout the world, right? That's what we saw in the next source of Bereshit Rabbah, trodden on by other nations, outliving other nations. Have these things happened to the Jewish people in their history? Right? Well, I think we can answer that is certainly the case. I think we mentioned this in our Parsha share when it came to when it came to the Jacob and the ladder, we mentioned the fact that Jacob has a dream about exile, the ladder going from the earth, from the dust of the earth to the stars in heavens, the two similes of the Jewish people. And we notice that the ladder is used as the analogy from heaven, joining heavens and earth. Rabbi Isaac Bernstein, the late great rabbi of Kinloss, said as follows: the ladder is symbolic of the experience of the Jewish people when we have been in exile. Every country, you know the story about your ancestors. I don't need to tell you, right? Everyone listening? Peter, Eitan, Rachel, Mervyn, everyone there, wakey, David, Estelle, Powell, Harry, and anyone else who I missed out. The idea is that the story, we arrived, we go to the East End, we set up balloons, Petticoat Lane, right? We're selling our wares, come from very humble beginnings, and it happened in Poland, it happened in Russia, it happened in France, it happened in every country. And gradually we made our way up the ladder, right? And all of a sudden we were standing at the top of the ladder. So we started at the lowest part of the ladder, and then we made our way to the top of the ladder. And then all of a sudden, what happened? Who was holding the ladder? Our neighbors that were in the country in which we dwelled, in which we had succeeded, in which we had contributed so great. But when they saw us moving up the ladder, moving ahead of them, they saw it at their expense, and then they shook that ladder and we came tumbling down. So the ladder is an analogy, says Rabbi Bernstein, as to the experience of the Jewish people in exile. We start out on a very low rung, we make our way up the rungs, but we know on the ladder, if somebody shakes that ladder, then you fall off. And when the non-Jewish neighbors in various countries over the course of history, whichever country you want to choose, it's not me saying it, it's history, they have shaken that ladder and we have come crashing down. So therefore, that perhaps is one of the analogies that we have had high points and low points on our history, like the dust of the earth, right? And like the stars in heaven. Good morning, Carol. But the idea also is that we have, not just from our enemies, but also from ourselves, the Jewish people, nobody does it quite like us. So sometimes we have had highs, some of the high points in our history. Think about the time when we had the temple, the time when we had our own sovereignty in the land of Israel, with kings, with a high priest, with the temple era, and it was like an idyllic utopian existence. People went up 3 times a year for the festivals, and so on and so forth. It was wonderful. But then there have been other times where we have fallen exceptionally low, like the dust of the earth, something disgusting. And because that's the nature of the Jewish people, we either, as high as we can go, we also can fall very lowly. We're not just sitting on the fence. And therefore, there have been times in our history where we have fallen, stumbled and fallen as a result of being led astray. And that has led us to become like the dust of the earth. So that's another of the analogies. Why is it, and this question we'll leave you with, asked Rabbi Sachs, do you have any idea why this may have been part of God's plan? Why would God want his chosen people, want his beloved children to be compared and to live a lives or a destiny where one moment we are on great heights and the other moment we are like the dust of the earth? Why is it that would be part of the Jewish psyche, the Jewish experience? Answers on the postcard, please. COVID-free, of course. We continue with Psalm 23 to be picked up tomorrow. If the weather's brightening up, don't worry. It's going to be sunny. Don't worry. I know Estelle was worried. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Michael, I noticed that comment. I'll pick it up tomorrow. Memorial prayer. Adon Elamim Zacho Es Nishmais Ve'ilabes Mecho Morris David Ben Benjamin Radomski Naftali Tzvi Ben Shmuel Ari Jampo Yes, Nishmas, Leah Bas Paivo, Harav Yaakov Tzvi Ben David Aryeh, Tzvi Tzivia Bas Mordechai, from Ben Domi Slavin, Shom Ben Yisrael Morris, Tzivara Fekele Bas Ruven Bach, Shalom Ben Eli, Ben Bas Paivo, from Moshe Chana Bas Yaakov Shmo, Kele Bele Bas Henech, Yirmiyahu Yechiv Ben Echam Moshe Eliezer, Saramaka Bas Binyamin, Shal Chuli Elamam, Vegan Eden Teimenu Chasam, Lachim El Rachamim, Yasrein B'Seitzu Kanafab Yolamim, V'Yitzrobas Chaystish Rasam Adonai Nachlasam, Yanuchu B'Shlom Shkavam, V'Nomar Amen. Misha Berach, for those unwell. Misha Berach Avosenu Avram Yitzchak Yaakov. Hu Yivarech Eskola Choylem Shalchu Bavo Shanu Mispalim Bavo Ram B'Zchas HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Aleichem Lachim Aleposam Vishlach Fushlim L'Shemaim L'Chol Leveim B'Soch Shachal Yisrael Refuas HaNefesh Refuas HaGuf Hashavas V'Akariv V'Nomar Amen. Some of the comments that are coming in are very good, excellent, very accurate. We'll pick up with it with Rabbi Sachs' thoughts tomorrow. In the meantime, everyone, look after yourselves. Keep safe, keep well, and wishing you a very, very good day.